Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the mini bench. Somebody's asked for plans, which I don't intend to do, and I didn't start with a plan. I kind of, back of a napkin, drew it out and then just sort of went after it. This is a cherry bench with a walnut chop and hickory jaws, and then oak and cherry handles. I've built it a couple months ago. I've been using it now for a couple months. You probably can't see it in the video, but there's some wear marks from actual use, which is what its intent was. I'm not not necessarily somebody to say you should build your bench out of cherry. I had a bunch of cherry lumber, and it actually was probably not the greatest for using this, and my wood skills probably aren't the greatest for building this. And so I had a number of challenges. I had a lot of chip out with the cherry, which I had to fill, and my dovetails aren't perfect, and the cherry made that pretty difficult. But in general it looks pretty good. In any case, I put the cheapest stuff I could find on Amazon on for like these bench vices. This one's, I believe it's a 7-inch vise, and then this one's an 18-inch vise, so this thing will open up very wide, about a foot, because the mechanism underneath actually had to set back behind these legs, so there's about 6 inches of lost space. Anyhow, the construction of it, I can talk in nominal lumber terms. We basically had a number of what I would call 2x4s, cherry 2x4s, and some cherry 2x6s, and some hickory 2x6s, and then this is I think it was a 10-quarter piece of walnut, so 2.5 inches thick, and it's a little thinner than that, of course, because I've had to plane it down, etc. The chop end here is secured both by these dovetails, but also it's got a breadboard, and so there's a tenon that comes off of the cherry into this walnut, and then these pegs, these maple pegs, secure it to the end, so there's no flexion or anything like that in that vise jaw. So we'll take it and kind of flip it up, and you can see underneath. These 2x6 edges are just screwed on with these bronze screws, because I figure if they get beat up, they will be able to be replaced, although it'll be a job because of the the dovetailing. These legs are all the way through the table, and you got levelers on them to be able to, if you're on an uneven surface or something, you'll be able to bring it to level. Here's that 18-inch vise, and as you can see, that mechanism is set way back from the front just because the legs aren't quite wide enough apart, and I don't need 18 inches of travel on that vise. And then here's the smaller vise, and really I use this one the most so far. I'll just move here to the end, and essentially it's just a big cutting board. You can see all the, essentially they're 2x4s that are just glued together, clamped to become one solid surface, and then these end components are screwed on, and then I chiseled out for the legs. I don't have a lathe. One day maybe I'll get one, but I just made these handles by taking a square piece of stock and planing it down with a hand plane, just rotating it frequently to get to the round surface. But you can see they're a little not completely round, but perfect for this. It's fine. And then these I just cut with a hole saw, and drilled them, and then they're just glued a little bit. Then there's a screw that goes in, so I should be able to unscrew them and knock them off if I ever have to take them apart. And around the back side, I put this track in here, this T-track, so that eventually I'll be able to put a tool holder on here, or be able to change different types of tool holding devices on the back. So let me put this camera down, and then we'll get some dimensions for people that are interested. So the length overall is 42 and about a 1/4 inch, and really it's about 41 inches to the end of the chop from end to end. Just 15 3/4 inches wide, and the glue up was just big enough to fit through my planer. It was actually, I can't remember if I did it in 2 pieces or 1, but it's about 13 1/4 inches wide. So it's about a 1/4 size of a standard Rubo bench, I guess. It's 4 1/2 inches tall, and the thickness of the bed is about 2 1/2 inches now. Okay, and then I got a few accessories with it. I think these bench dogs are a must-have. You can just put them in the holes like this, and then you can open your clamp and close on any item you want to lay flat on the bench, but be clamped firmly in place. These are great. I really like them. Nothing I talk about here is sponsored by anyone. I got those on Amazon. I think they're really nice. This also is called a planing stop. And you can see these just slide, and that way you can fit it into any section. And now you've got a broad base that you can put a board up against and hold it in place, and you can put it across these bigger slots. Anyhow, this thing is, I really like it. It's pretty good little piece of equipment that doesn't take up any space at all, and it's fairly easy to move around and reposition into different places. I also got some bench hold downs. Those look like this. Not a big fan of these. These are painted, and that paint is slick, and so when you get them in here, they hold for a second or two, or don't hold at all. So my understanding is maybe you can rough these up with a rough sandpaper, and that'll allow them to hold in place, but haven't done that yet. Anyhow, I think in general, the things I probably would have done differently is I probably wouldn't have got as big of an end vise, because if you didn't notice, when I drop that down there, it hits the end vise. I could have maybe moved the holes around a little bit, or planned the holes a little better. But you know, live and learn. Back of the napkin. You know, so you know, I do this kind of more often than I want to. Is you know, or I should know better, put it that way, was when I was routing this chamfer on here. My bearing slipped, and I had drilled these holes before I put the chamfer in place. And you know, you can see I've got a little divot here. It turns out actually to be pretty nice, because it makes it easier to put these bench dogs in and take them out. But you know, that's another live and learn item. And then these holes don't go all the way through, these two, because again, they bottom out into the hardware for the bench vise. But you can still put the dogs in, and you know, they hold fine. You just can't put, you know, a hole down through the bench. Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you, I wouldn't recommend putting it on a folding table like this. Just, you know, it's going to move a lot, and probably collapse if you're, you know, doing a lot of hand planing. I'm just doing that. It's just so that I can put it out here where the lighting's a little bit better, or, you know, not as much stuff either in the way. But I do set it on my regular workbench, and the really nice feature of it is, of course, it's you know, going to raise up your work by 9.5 inches off of your standard bench. And for me, it puts it right at about my elbow height. So when I'm planing, hand planing, I'm not bending over at all. And you know, that's really nice. It's much easier on your back. You know, I like the extra height of the bench. So eventually, probably over the next, you know, month or so, I'm going to build a base for it that's going to be a sturdy base. I'm going to put some weight in the bottom of it so that it's you know, pretty solid, and it won't move around like, say, this folding table, for instance. And I'll also put wheels on it so that you can raise it up and lower it down to some leveling feet, or move it around on wheels so that it's, you know, not all that difficult to move. Anyhow, so I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You know, I probably wouldn't recommend using these bronze screws like this, though I'd inherited some from my father-in-law, and they're beautiful screws. It's just that they're brittle and kind of soft on the head, so it's easy to get tear out on the head. And like, for instance, you see this plug here. I had one break off, and then trying to get it out was absolute misery. So you know, and you can actually feel the hole through this, where I had to kind of drill it out to get out the broken shaft. Anyhow, so I'd probably recommend using something a little, you know, a little sturdier than bronze, although I think the bronze looks, you know, pretty nice. Yeah, so I think that's really about it. We'll take a quick look at the inside of the chop here. Oh yeah, and the finish on it. I like to make cutting boards, and the finish that I use on it is nothing more than a little what I call board salve. It's just a beeswax, mineral oil, and toasted walnut oil finish, and seems to work great. You can't see I mean, I know I put a number of sanding marks in it. Just rub a little bit of that wax back on it, and those virtually disappear. And the same with, any scratches or anything that I've put in it. So it's not, like a hard polyurethane or anything like that, but it seems like it's durable and it's easily refreshable. You just wipe it on like a shoe polish and then buff it off. And it gives it a really nice, rich tone. And I guess one last thing is, the drilling of the holes. I just used a Milescraft attachment for a handheld drill that allows you to have, it's almost like a portable drill press. It was, I don't know, $35, and it allows you to drill a perfectly straight up and down hole. Only thing is, it doesn't go all the way through because the depth of plunge on it isn't deep enough to go all the way through. So I drilled the hole about 3/4 of the way through with the drill press or the little handheld, drill press, and then used the same bit just in my handheld drill. Since the hole was already mostly done, the bit stayed nice and straight, and I just finished the hole with a handheld drill. And then I just put a little chamfer around with my battery-powered Makita router. It went really fast, and it gives it a nice clean look, and we won't get any chip out of these holes when sliding work along it or anything like that. So all right, so I think with that, if you have any questions, let me know.